your ESPN crew, I'm Jerry Bunch. So long from the Amos Alonzo Stagmall, and congratulations once again to Albion College and head coach Pete Smith, the 1994 NCAA Division III national champion.
You know, winning it all is really special. For those kids to, at Division III, to be on a national championship team, play on national television on the ESPN, there's not very many, student athletes that can say that. And that's something that, they'll carry the rest of their lives. I'm sure they replay that tape numerous times during the course of their lifetimes. And a very special feeling to be part of it.
As I think back, I knew we would score points. We had, our three running backs might have been the best in the whole league. Todd Morris, Jeff Robinson, Gabe Cooper. Those guys could start at any team, and we had all of them. But, we did have a new quarterback coming in. Kyle was going to be a sophomore. We had a lot of good guys on defense, but we still had holes.
Coming in '94, we were pretty much an open slate. I don't think we were sure what to expect, and coaches were honest right from the get-go. And really, I don't know that we were great at the beginning of the season.
When we started the season, we had 3 freshmen up the middle. So I guess I was more worried about how we would stop people than whether or not we would score.
The interesting thing about Albion and Coach Schmidt is coming into our senior year, we had won the MIAA the previous 5 years. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think he did a great job of being able to pull the right kids in and always having that depth on the bench. So you just had that. You always knew there were good kids. You probably had 2 to 3 deep in each position. And he just did a good job putting together a well-rounded team at that point in time.
Coach Schmidt, the schemes that he would come up with and the ways that he would make practice fun, and certainly the games beyond that was just something I don't think that could ever be duplicated. He was just ahead of his time, and he was the guy that you would want your kid to play for, and he was certainly one that we all would have went to battle for anywhere.
We opened up at Wilmington, Ohio, which is actually nice because we went on the road, long drive. Those really help teams sort of get to know each other. We had a lot of new faces playing. We won the game, but there were some pretty raw spots. Robinson, the running back, was stellar, and so our knowns were really good. What the first 2 games did for us was figure out our unknowns. And I think after those first 2 games, the coaches realized we got a pretty special team here, because what they didn't bank on was the younger guys stepping up into roles of not just role players, but people that can make plays.
I remember the DePaul game was kind of where I came out and stepped up from just being another one of the offensive guys to, hey, this kid might be able to make some plays.
I remember the first 4 non-conference games, us playing well but still sort of finding our way. And I think once the league season started, we really started putting up points, and the defense really started to stop people. And we started clicking.
Talk was whoever won that game was going to be the MIAA champion, and that team was going to go to the playoffs. And I just thought that was a key point in our season. And against us, I guess we had to go, it was an away game, we had to play at Alma. And at the time, Alma was the only team in the division that has turf. So you're playing with different shoes, you're playing away, and Alma was a huge passing offense. So for that game, we actually changed our defense up a little bit, and it worked to our advantage.
Alma actually went through the first 3 games of the league undefeated, and we put it on them pretty good. I think we beat them 26-0. But it was really at that point that we began to understand we were going to go to the playoffs, and hopefully we could win a game in the playoffs and do what the team ahead of us had done.
The next day, I remember reading in the paper Jim Cole, who was Alma's head coach, and who had done a great job with that program, said, "We just got beat by the best team in Division III football today." And I think for a lot of us reading that quote, from where we'd come, not knowing what to expect at the beginning of the season, we looked at that and we said, geez, Jim Cole's not a guy to blow smoke. That's a pretty big compliment, and maybe we better start taking that seriously. Maybe we better start seeing ourselves as the best team in Division III football.
We get into the playoffs, we're on a roll, we're 9-0, and the playoffs were set up perfectly for that storybook. We had to play all the powers of Division III. Every team we played had won a national championship. So Mount Union came to our place, they were the reigning national champions, and the energy was so high, there was almost a fight right in the beginning of the game, and that's the way the whole game was. It was a dogfight.
I've never played in a football game that was that physically demanding. I mean, just play in, play out. Seemed like across the field, guys were hitting, and clearly competitive, back and forth. And ultimately, it was our special teams, blocking a couple extra points that ends up, putting us over the top.
They were a very young team, but were exceptional on offense. And by the grace of God, we blocked 2 extra points to win that game by a point. I've never been a part of a game where 2 extra points have ever been blocked, let alone in a collegiate playoff game.
Once we beat Mount Union, we can beat anybody if we can beat this school.
St. John's was my favorite game of all time. We went up to Collegeville, Minnesota, to play the Johnnies, and it was an unreal situation. It's an unreal setting up there.
There was snow everywhere, and we were playing one of the legends of Division III.
St. John's was apparently this team that hardly ever practiced, right? Because of the weather, they practiced once or twice a week. They never hit. But you watch them on film, and they had some animals on the team. But the conditions were terrible. You can't simulate anything like that back in Michigan. They had mounds of snow all the way around the field, slippery, freezing. Even though you're on the field, you're still freezing.
Absolutely one of the most hard-hitting, hard-fought games I've been a part of. And it was down to the wire.
And they were good. They had a legendary coach. They'd won a lot of games. I think they had won the title a few years before.
And it didn't matter whether you wore tennis shoes or cleats or turf shoes or whatever. That field was frozen just, an eighth of an inch down. It was like cement.
One game out of the season, Jeff Robinson couldn't run. And that threw a wrench in our machine, in our offense machine.
Barnett caught everything, anything thrown to that guy, he snagged. I think he kind of picked it off the turf, just grabbed it.
The ball came down and literally could have been an inch off the ground. And in fact, to this day, they still, if you ask them, would claim that it bounced. But grabbed the ball, picked up, and 55 yards later, that was it. But that was a game where the first time, I think, in my mind, and probably a lot of other people too, we thought maybe we weren't going to win. So it was that was a nice victory. That felt good. That one felt really good. It was actually funny because going in to the game, all the attention was on Washington and Jefferson all week, and oh yeah, and Albion's playing in this game too. So I don't think anybody gave us a chance to really win the game.
After coming off the Mount Union game and the St. John's, Minnesota game, this felt more like an MIAA game. We outmatched them. We knew from the beginning they couldn't play with us. And so we were sort of able just to enjoy the game. It felt less tense once we settled in. And so it was just a lot of fun in that game. And the event was fun.
It was amazing. I think you're playing the game, and the whole time you're playing, you're never stopping. Even though you're winning at that point in time in the fourth quarter, you know you can't let your guard down. You don't want to let these guys back into the game. You don't want to change the momentum of the game at that point in time. So, you know, the whistle blows, the game's over, and you almost don't even know what to do because you finally did it. You put all those years in. I think a lot of the guys on the team, we played football for 10 plus years at that point in time, and we finally pulled it off. We had a perfect season, 13-0, and you're trying to wheel that all in at once. And you know, you're crying. You want to run up in the stands and see your parents and see all the students that travel down there, but you don't want to go up there because you want to stay on the field and be with your teammates because we're celebrating and the trophy's on the field and the coach is holding it up. So it's just all that mixed emotions because you finally did it. It was just amazing.
It was fun in the following weeks, reading all the newspaper articles and doing the interviews and being able to relish in the fact that we are the best. And you know, it's one of those things I think if you ask any champion, is they can't take that away from you. 20 years later, they can't take that away from us, that we were the best. And it's certainly something we wear with pride when we go back to Albion, and we wear it with pride in the MIAA. No one's really even come close to accomplishing what we've accomplished in that year.
To go out there and have the success you have over the course of consecutive seasons, it's really special. And I think the older you get and the more experience you have, you know, that you see how football not only changes, but just how more competitive it's gotten these days. It really is something special, and I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I just don't know.
The 1994 championship team symbolizes what can be accomplished by a group of dedicated student athletes, and that's something that's always going to be a part of our legacy here at Albion College.